Good afternoon. It's 6 p.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. Who else needs to sign in online?
You know what? I think these individuals think they're on the other meeting.
You may want to make a comment that this is the bond oversight meeting and not the,
Yes.
not the regular board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've never had this.
This meeting is the Bond Oversight Committee meeting, not the special called UISD board meeting. So you all may be connecting to, wanting to join the wrong meeting. This is the Bond Oversight Committee meeting.
Well, they might be want to join you guys.
Or maybe they're
You're welcome to join us, however, if you'd like. Okay, it's 6 p.m. I've called this meeting to order. I am the Bond Oversight Committee Chair, Minnie Dora Haynes. Will the rest of the committee please give me your names and present?
Erasmo Villarreal.
Lalo Uribe.
President, yeah, President.
Orly is joining us via Zoom. Anyone?
Okay.
Hello. Joining us via Zoom. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. For this meeting, we have my glasses. Do we have any public comments for the Bond Oversight Committee meeting? Did anyone sign up?
No, we didn't have any.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody's understood, you know, personal,
Thank you.
in person.
Okay, the first item is discussion and approval to recommend to the Board of Trustees approval of the guaranteed maximum price submitted by Leyendecker Construction of Texas, Inc. in the amount of $24,087,992 for design and construction of Juan Roberto Ramirez Middle School, located on Agüeros subdivision.
Good afternoon, or good evening for the record. I'm Cordelia Jackson. We're recommending for the approval of the GMP for our next new middle school, Juan Roberto Ramirez Middle School. The amount is $24,087,992 for design and construction. This GMP includes a contingency of $300,000, an allowance for technology of $1,155,000, and a fire protection tank and pump allowance in the amount of $125,000.
What,
Excuse my ignorance, where's Aqueros, Aqueros
Aqueros
subdivision?
It's in the Mines Road area.
Oh,
In your presentation, I think this
Yeah,
is.
we have a map.
Do you have any questions on the
No, thank
GMP
you.
itself?
No.
Okay.
Mr.
you.
Rangel, will you present the,
Yes. Good evening.
thank you,
or
Ms. Jackson.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Bond Oversight Committee, members of the audience, and the public in general out there in the online. So we have a PowerPoint presentation that I'd like to make regarding, to explain a little bit more. But before we go into that, as you can see there on the screen, we have the actual proposal for the guaranteed maximum price submitted by Leyendecker Construction. This is the third new middle school. As you may recall, there were 3 middle schools as part of the 2013 bond program, and this will be the third and last, the final one. And this is being funded through the 88 million Phase 3 2019 bonds that have been already issued for this particular purpose, or one of these schools was for that. And the breakdown submitted by Leyendecker, they basically said, look, it's a prototype. We built Raúl Perales. We're currently building the new middle school, Ricardo Molina, located on the Cuatro Vientos subdivision by Lomas del Sur. And it's Mr. Alanis will be giving a report on that, on the progress of that second middle school. But this third middle school was also part of the program to actually start building in, excuse me, in 2020 and open in 2022. However, it got delayed for many reasons But we are now at this point where we would like to recommend it in order to freeze the price. As we are being informed, there will be major price increases on the price of steel, especially, many other imported products, and as well as locally manufactured or United States, American-made, but there's been a lot of increase on building materials. So this GMP is good till the end of April. That's based on the suppliers. They could not guarantee beyond the end of April because a lot of manufacturers have already notified many suppliers and contractors that prices will be going up.
Not only prices going up, but availability as well.
The availability is the other big issue, correct? Yes, sir. So we need to, even though this school is not scheduled to open until August of 2023, we want to go ahead and get it going as soon as it's allowed by the Board of Trustees and the Bond Oversight Committee. So we do have the allowances there besides the basic building cost using the same prototype, as the previous two middle schools. So we have the allowance for contingency. We have the landscape, irrigation, fencing, topsoil, and the football field, as well as instructional technology, general contingency for unexpected, unforeseen items. And we are putting an allowance for a fire protection, storage tank, and pump. Based on reports from the City of Laredo Fire Department, they are analyzing and evaluating whether it will be required. Some schools do not require it based on the water pressures that we are able to achieve in certain areas of the city. So the city is looking into that, but we want to go ahead with an allowance. If it is not required by the fire department, this allowance will not be used and it will be deducted from the contract. On the next pages, we have some of the breakdowns, more detailed. I'm not going to go over all those, but everything is detailed there as to what is their price. We were able to compare it to the exact breakdown that was submitted, similar to this, for the Ricardo Molina Middle School. And some prices have gone up 3 to 4%, 5%. But the one on the steel went up 100%. And that's really beyond everybody's control. Anyone who's in this business or industry are familiar with all the tariffs as a result of import and export policies and availability of the materials. Prices have just skyrocketed on steel. And if the infrastructure bill is passed by Congress, expect another major uptick on prices on all materials. So we have there everything from the masonry, metals, thermal moisture doors, finishes, specialties, equipment for the kitchen, and all the mechanical systems, fire sprinklers, and special systems as security, fire alarm. So at this point, we'll start the PowerPoint presentation. So we have this guaranteed maximum price for the new middle school, and this actually will be our number 13 middle school. It's been officially named Juan Roberto Ramirez Middle School by the Board of Trustees, located on the Aquero subdivision. So just breaking it down for you all, we have the construction and design. This is our budget, as well as technology budget that we had back in 2013 for a total of $22,300,501. The GMP proposal has been submitted, including the design fees, architects, engineers, as well as the instructional technology equipment, and all the allowances that are listed there. It's in the amount of $24,087,992. Again, it includes the technology. We had to increase that 10% compared to our previous middle school. Again, the cost of cabling and equipment has increased. Construction contingency in the amount of $300,000. Fire protection, $125,000. Landscaping, irrigation, football fields, and this is for the entire property, of $200,000. The perimeter fencing, as well as topsoil and irrigation pump station of $90,000, and the TIF sport grass for the football field, as well as irrigation for $160,000. So this comes to, if you get that cost and remove the site work and the allowances, because those vary from building to building, different utility lines that need to be extended, as well as site work. Some require a lot more fill or cut than others. But what the IRS means, construction cost indexes, which is kind of like the industry guideline, what they call, or the way they figure their cost is without the site work and without the architect's fees. And if you looked at the 2021 IRS means median cost to build public schools, and they have a cost of $227 per square foot. However, within the IRS means, there's an adjustment factor for every state and every city. Because obviously, as you know, some cities like Dallas or Houston may have higher prices in labor, a little bit also on materials, but it makes a big difference on the labor costs by region. So what the index factor that is built into the IRS means cost guidelines, they have for the city of Laredo, any cost that is the average cost across Texas, they reduce it by 81.8% of that cost is what it would cost actually in Laredo. And that's based on a lot of information and analysis that they gather from previous projects of this past year, and then they put it into a publication. So when you adjust that or you apply the 81.8% to the 227, according to the IRS means, a middle school should cost $186 per square foot. Again, it's without the architect or the site work. The price that we received, the $24,087,000, if you deduct the architect and the site work, it ends up costing $177 per square foot. So this is kind of like to compare and ensure that our price is within industry standards. The proposal from Linebecker and their design team is 5% below the IRS means construction price. So we felt it is a very good proposal, yeah, and it's guaranteed for the duration of the entire project. So if approved by the Bond Oversight and the Board of Trustees, we would envision, as far as the schedule, to begin construction latter part of May, early June, as soon as we get a building permit. We have already submitted the plans and specs for review, just to the City of Laredo. We haven't applied for the permit, but for them to review, we got their feedback and comments, and everything that is included in this price includes those comments, so that we don't face surprises down the road. We know exactly what the city is requiring by the new building codes and the new energy code. If that project begins June of this year, then we're expecting a completion of May or June of 2023, with the intent of opening it for the academic school year of 2023-24. So at this time, the administration recommends approval of this guaranteed maximum price. Now, if you go to the next page, there's a little bit on the defined scope of work. Again, this school would be for 1,000 student capacity. It does have the 111,000 square feet, exactly the same as the previous two middle schools. 27 classrooms, 4 science labs, 2 computer BIM labs, art labs, STEM lab, 2 self-contained special ed classrooms. And again, all the amenities, I'm going to go over on the next pages. We have all the detail. Again, it's the same as what we're building at Cuatro Vientos on Ricardo Molina Middle School.
Is there anything different at this middle school that we don't have at the other two middle schools that shouts out at it?
It's the same exactly as Ricardo Molina, but it is different from Raúl Perales in the sense that after we built Raúl Perales, and due to the shift in curriculum programs, the second school that's under construction, we deleted, with approval of the administration and the board, of course, the home economics lab, and we converted it to a STEM, science, technology, engineering,
yes, I remember that,
lab. And that's really, The only change we made from the first to the second middle school. And then on this third one will be exactly the same as the second middle school.
And where's the elevator? And why is there only one?
Well, there's one elevator, it's all that is required by the building code based on the size of the building.
Oh, wow.
It only requires one. So
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't understand, like you do.
that's why, I mean,
Mr. Rangel, and I'm trying to
Yes.
find myself here, but
yes, sir.
you had mentioned okay, here it is. $177 a square foot as compared to 186.
Correct.
The 186 is not including architectural and engineering. When we're bidding out, this being the third middle school, when we're bidding out these projects, is the A&E priced separately per school, or is it all inclusive in one package?
It's separate per school. The first time we built this middle school, there was a higher price of, it was a fee of 6%. And then on the second and third, since it's a prototype, they don't really have to redesign anything other than the site adaptation.
Oh, okay.
There are some changes the architects and engineers had to do to bring it up to the new code, but in the most part, it's the same design, so the fee is reduced to 2.5%. So if you notice, on the proposal, right after the agenda item, the actual proposal from Line Deck, I don't know, you could go back to it's on the second page, or go back. There, on that one, it breaks down right under allowances. You have the AE architect engineer fees of $587,512.
Oh,
That's the real cost. Now, the budget was $1 million, a little bit over $1 million for the architect engineer, because it's not only for the design, but for the contract administration for the entire duration of the project. So,
I'm sorry, and I hadn't seen that.
no, not a
I've seen it
problem.
out.
No, I understand, and that's okay. That's just to reiterate that it is at a reduced fee. I know Randy Hollis, who's the architect, and his team engineers, they're online looking at it.
Mayor,
Hello, Randy.
hello, how are y'all?
Fine, thank you.
So if you have any questions regarding the design, I asked him to join us so he could maybe respond that. On the elevator, Mr. Hollis, do you want to expand a little bit on that? On the question from,
I was wondering, it seems funny that there's only one elevator for so many square
Right.
footage.
Well, there is, you do have circulation down in the, of course, there's a major monumental stair in the middle of the school that accesses both wings. And then at the end of each wing, there's another stair. So you do have two ways of circulation off of each floor. And the elevator is as Mr. Rangel said, is there as required by code. And also to deliver, if there's any need for delivering of meal carts, et cetera, from the cafeteria up to the second floor. But it's not for primary use, it's mainly there for accessibility, in case there's
That's what I was gonna
handicapped
ask.
students in wheelchairs or
Yeah.
have other impairments that they can access without using the stairs.
Yeah.
It's really its primary function.
Yeah, it just seemed weird that it was only one for such a large square footage. Is there anything else you'd like to bring to our attention regarding this middle school, Randy?
No, as Mr. Rangel said, we've incorporated all the lessons learned over the past two projects. It's been rolled into the design and into the documents that have been priced. So we think this is very good, a very good product that the district has now before you, and the siting of it works well with the site that we have. We've got the same amount of parking as we have for the other schools, the same kind of circulation for bus, loop, and parent drop-off. So it's certainly an adequate and a very usable site. And the school will have its own identity. The only other thing is it's all planned, the colors of brick will change. So this school will have a distinct identity from the other two schools in terms of the roof color, in terms of the also the brick color.
I'd like to mention also, Madam Chair, that after we built the first middle school, Raúl Perales Middle School, we conducted a tour and a visit. We held, I believe, 3 meetings with the principal and teachers, librarian and all her staff, with the architect. And we walked actually almost throughout the entire middle school and looked at recommendations that the current users, after 6 months of being at that campus, they provided to us a list of recommendations and ideas on how they would improve on it. The majority were minor in nature, like adding a few more bulletin boards, marker boards, IFPs, different ideas about converting, for example, the home economics to a STEM lab, or add an additional art lab, those kind of things. So I know Randy took all that into consideration. We discussed it with the superintendent and curriculum instruction, and some of those ideas, recommendations were implemented in the second middle school, and that's why he's referring to that as anything, lessons learned, upgrades and enhancements. And then we're applying those also in this third school. So if we can go to the PowerPoint back, please, so we can show the maps, and we can explain a little bit about this particular site. It's almost towards the end. You have these power maps. Again, there we can start with that Randy developed for us. As you can see there on the top left-hand corner, you see the Rio Grande, and that's the location of the new proposed Roberto Ramirez Middle School. If you look a little bit further south, you see there some of the major subdivisions and how they've grown over the years, from Rancho Viejo. You see the Riverbank Drive. And you can see way on the bottom, you see Finley and Kaysen, kind of like towards your right. And as you go up, you can actually see there the George Washington Middle School, which is a school that it's at this time, bursting at the seams. I know because of the pandemic, there's been a lot of online instruction, but when they come back, next year they'll have over 1,300 students. It's really built for 800. So we have a lot of portable classroom buildings, and the idea with this new school, we can separate that enrollment and provide adequate facilities, because even though they do have the classrooms, every other component and support area gets really stretched to the limit. The library, availability of computer labs, every special ed rooms, the kitchen and cafeteria are really maxed out. Again, like it's for 800 students, 900 max, and we'll have over close to 1,300 or a little bit over 1,300. So that's the general location. You see where the Bud Bullock and Mines Road, and there's a lot of homes out there already. We drove out there a few weeks ago, and I was surprised to see that in spite of the pandemic, there's a lot of homes being built in that area, in that specific. So this school would provide a neighborhood school for those students, but also from different subdivisions within the attendance boundary. George Washington Middle School is the only middle school that we have on the northwest quadrant of United ISD. So it's definitely needed, and that's why this was part of the 2013 bond program. Now, we did acquire this property at a very good opportunity from IBC Bank, and at 38 acres, and that was like 10 years ago in anticipation of one day needing it. You can go to the next slide. And just to zoom in a little bit into the actual site. I know it looks close to the Rio Grande, but it is a long distance, and we're up on the hill. So it's not a flood area, it don't have drainage issues. You do see on the north that creek and a large man-made pond, where we will be allowed actually by the IBC Bank and the owners of that adjacent property to drain our post-development drainage into that area. So at Quero Boulevard, you can see there that right now dead ends on the southeast corner of the property where it meets Bernadette Lane. So it's kind of like the dead-end road. As part of this project, we are projecting to extend Aqueros Boulevard towards the northwest, all along our property.
Okay.
And that was part of the program in the bond program. There's some funds allocated for that under land improvement. Now, the road will be shared in that cost development by IBC Bank and United ISD. That was the agreement when the district acquired that property.
Let me ask you a question on that. I know there was a lot of back and forth on that extension between the bank and on the plat and stuff. Did that end up being a 5-lane road, or did it get squeezed back down to a 4 or 3?
Yes, Mr. Arel, are correct. We went through a series of meetings, and during those meetings, in that time period, the city ordinance was modified to where now it includes, it used to be 5 lanes, now it requires 3 lanes. 2 lanes and a median for turning lane, and it requires bike lane on either side, as well as green area and sidewalk. So that is what's the minimum requirement by the city. As a matter of fact, we just had recently a meeting with the new transportation director and all engineering director from the city of Laredo, and that's something that we're going to bring up to you all to present. Once we receive proposals and bids, we'll bring it to the next bond oversight meeting.
And what is the back-to-back pavement on that 3-lane?
I don't have that number for you right now, Mr. Guerrero. I can get that information for you, but I do know that it requires an 80-foot right-of-way.
80-foot right-of-way?
Yes, for the
3 lanes?
entire, I mean, that includes the 2 bike lanes, pedestrian lanes, green areas, landscape, as well as the 2 lanes, and in the middle, it requires a median.
Okay.
So,
Yes, if I may, this is Orlando. Erasmo, the width is the same as before, but what they've done is they've reduced the amount of the area for the cars to pass. So basically, they're bringing it down to a 2-lane, and then the space that you're talking about, they're adding a bike trail and a walk trail, and they actually have 5 feet for trees in there also. So the powers that be determined that. So, that's something that, I mean, I would hope they would remove that, but that's what's going to happen. So you're going to get a lot of cars in that area, and they're going to be servicing on 2 lanes instead of what you're a 4-lane, what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
Well,
Correct.
the other thing is to put a bike lane next to a high-traffic area, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me at all, personally. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just doesn't seem like a good idea.
that's one of the concerns we discussed with the city and the planning department. And, they're reviewing that, because what makes it tough is the Aqueros Boulevard currently ends right at the corner of this property, and it has 5 lanes.
Yeah.
And no bike lanes.
Yeah.
So if you have bike lanes, somehow you got to transition it into Aquero Boulevard that's existing. So it's going to be tricky, but we'll do whatever is required in order to move forward with that extension. That's a key element of this construction of the school. It'll be like 2 separate projects ongoing at the same time. You go to the next step. Now, we zoom in a little bit more, and this is the plan that Randy Hollis Munoz, in conjunction with their Howland Engineering and Alain Decker. So, Randy, do you want to explain a little bit more about the concept on the traffic and the property?
Oh, sure, Enrique. So obviously the school fronts down toward Kepo Boulevard. That's the main entry that points down. If you remember, the other schools have a big entry arch. So that's going to be the major presence of the school toward that street. Bernadette is a little feeder that goes into the residential neighborhood. So the idea of the bus loop is that you enter off of Aquero. It's the big looping drive that then exits onto Bernadette. So you have one-way traffic to help in terms of traffic flow. and not to have a lot of people stacking up into the residential area. So the visitors parking, of course, is very similar to what we have on the other projects, with the visitors loop in the front, visitors parking in the front, staff on the side. One improvement that we've done is have a connector, so you actually, even though the bus loop is really one way for the back part, you have two-way traffic, so you have options on staff exiting right at the front of the property. And there is a connector between the staff parking and the visitors parking. So it will help be a sort of a reliever for the traffic on the front end of the property. So then there's room, the road's configured in the future if there's some expansion of the wings, those are the classroom wings going off to the right. There's room for some additional classrooms on each of those wings. And at the top, you can see where there would be an informal playing field and a couple of little pads for small bleachers for that, like we have at the other schools. So all the drop-offs will have canopies, just like the other schools, so they're protected on the front and the back. And there's a big connecting mall down the spine of the building between the two, the front and the rear entry. So that is pretty much the explanation. The service all happens on the left side. There's actually a drive up that's a little improvement because on this side we have more room. There's a little service drive that goes up to the kitchen over there. And so that should explain, unless anybody has any questions.
Any member of the committee have any questions? Is there anything else, Mr. Rangel, you care to elaborate on?
No, just to reiterate on the design as is being proposed, we already visited with the city of Laredo, different departments, and they're on board. They really like the fact that the bus loop does not discharge onto Aquero Boulevard, like typically in other middle schools, like Raúl Perales, for example. It actually will connect with the existing roads, like Randy mentioned, Bernadette and Pyramel. And the majority of the students on this campus who will be enrolled at this campus will be probably through bus transportation because of the area and the distances and having to cross hazardous routes. So if you see, that's one of the things that we met with the city, and they really like the fact that we extended the length of the bus loop. It's something that we don't have at Washington Middle School, and it creates a lot of bottleneck. So the buses will have plenty of space, and on the north part, there's actually 3 lanes. If you have buses, you can also have cars or parents go out that way, or teachers. Now, what we did on the parent drop-off on the front of the school, it will have 3 very wide lanes, which works really well. That was a concept we introduced at Raúl Perales and middle school, and it's worked really well. So we were able to bring in a lot of the parents and the traffic away from the boulevard to mitigate that traffic on the public street and bring it onto our controlled safety traffic routes. And we have an interconnection between the teacher parking and that parent drop-off loop. And the reason for that is the principals, many times after school bell rings and school starts, they'll close the gate on that bus loop and close the gate on the exit so that everybody who's going to go into that campus can only come into the front. But if teachers need to leave the campus for whatever reason during the day, they can exit. That's why we have that cross line, and they can exit through the parent drop-off loop. So, and the reasons for safety, security, we want to control everybody show up and report through the police station booth that we have at the entrance of the campus.
Thank you, Mr. Rangel.
Thank you.
Does the committee have any questions?
I have one last question. What building code is the city going to use on the school?
It's it was enforced in 2019 to pass a new building code and energy code. It's a
13 code?
It's a 2015 code.
The 15?
Yes, sir. And the city adopted it in 2019 to reflect all the new energy code.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons, if you notice, I mean, of course, I'm sure you've seen that the price has increased
Yeah.
about 7% compared to the Ricardo Molina Middle School from 20, that was bid in late 2018, early 2019. And that code became into effect. At Raúl Perales Middle School, it was not in effect yet. So the cost was lower.
Well, it was in effect. The thing is, the city had not.
The city had not adopted it,
That's the
yeah,
deal.
correct.
Yeah. that's-
It was implemented nationwide,
Yeah.
but not at the city of Laredo.
Yeah, the state mandate was 13 code back then. That was it.
So the energy code is the one that had the biggest impact
Yeah.
on that building code because it requires economizers, it requires major air ventilation, which actually worked out really good because of
Yeah.
the pandemic. It's one of the CDC recommendations to bring in a lot of ventilation,
Yeah.
fresh air. So I don't have any more on the presentation unless there are any more questions.
Anyone else from the committee have any more questions? If not, what are the wishes of the committee? I'd like to entertain a motion. Anyone?
I'll
so
motion,
inclined?
Madam Chair, motion is for approval to recommend to the Board of Trustees approval of the guaranteed maximum price submitted by Line Decker Construction of Texas, Inc. in the amount of $24,087,992 for design and construction of the Juan Roberto Ramirez Middle School located in the Arqueros subdivision.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please motion aye.
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 Any opposed? Was there someone opposed? Or did I hear wrong? Oh, it just came in late, okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion carries. By the way, is it Agüero or Agueros?
Arquero.
Arqueros.
Arquero.
Thought it was a G.
Arquero.
Arquero, okay. Because that's too small a type, and even with my glasses, I can't figure it out. Informational items? Hello, Mr. Allen.
Okay. Yes, I'm to present the 2013 bond construction program update. Good evening, Madam Chair, bond committee members, and members of the audience. Be presenting the current bond project status report for the following school projects. Next slide, please. If you want to go on to the slide of the first project, Roberto Santos, J. Santos Elementary School. That construction progress to date is at 100%. Still just some pending accessory items that need to be completed, but the school is ready and ready to open August 2021 school year. Some general notes, all work completed. We have the application already filled out for the ADA inspection and some building exterior signage and building plaque pending. Now, the exterior site work, sidewalks and parking work has been completed, irrigation and landscaping as well, and the xeriscape. And the rest of this presentation shows some exterior and interior views of the finished campus. And this is in the Cove subdivision, close to our Alexander High School 9th grade facility. If you have any questions,
I like the fencing on the exterior B, it looks cool. Maybe I jumped up to one.
yes, this fencing was part of the subdivision requirement
Uh-huh.
in that it's a coated vinyl fence. So we have that type of fencing throughout the perimeter of the site.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
I like the design.
These are just some exterior views of the brick patterns and some of the access routes. Now we're in the entrance, the main entrance, foyer lobby area. Got the reception desk. And this is, of course, a prototype So the fifth building that we've done. Though some of the interior colors, of course, changed, just like we mentioned earlier about giving the school its own identity. I believe they're scheduled already to begin with the furniture, right, deliveries. So the spaces are ready.
Will be open in August?
August. Yeah, this
Nice.
campus, the campus already has a principal and I guess full staff. Custodians there daily, opening and closing the building, and
Looks nice. Gymnasium, is it misspelled?
yes, that's a gymnasium. And we have a stage also. Yeah, the stage at the end of the,
Sometimes I
It was
wonder.
supposed to be gimnasio, but
Okay.
it's a combination of both.
Again, I wasn't sure if I could see.
yeah. And for the record, I didn't spell that.
As the architect.
Yeah, we blame the architect. Yes, and some of these features are, this campus, we were able to landscape or at least pave the courtyard completely.
The location is nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that pretty much covers Roberto J. Santos Elementary School. Any questions?
Nachi, the main entrance right now is East Elmore? Is that school, or what's the entrance to that school?
There's access from the loop,
There is?
yes, but there's also one off of the Delmar extension.
Yeah.
As you drive around, and you'll end up right in front of Alexander High School,
Mhm.
and it'll wind to this campus site. But yes, you can exit off of the loop as you drive out of that
Okay.
subdivision.
If you want to risk it.
I guess most of our kids will be well, they'll be eligible for transportation
Yeah.
because of the location and there's really not any neighborhood.
Or no, but it's
Homes
just
right now.
it's just lakeside right now.
It's lakeside, some of the Jackman area, it's closer to the loop.
And then eventually we'll be killing it.
Yes, yes, eventually, hopefully there'll be some neighborhood homes
He's
there.
got 400 lots. So there'll be something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. The next project to report on is the Ricardo Molina Middle School. Now, the construction progress to date on this campus is 56%. There have not been any time extensions requested. And the contractual completion date is January 2022, but to open August 2022 school year. Now reporting on the progress report. Site work, overall site is being maintained in proper condition. Testing agency has been on site doing field density tests and taking samples for quality control. We have Terracon engineers, geotechnical engineers, and material testing ongoing at that site. We also have concrete paving of the bus loop in progress. Area A, the exterior brick veneer is being installed in the classroom wing, and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work and ceiling above restrooms being installed in typical classroom wings. Area C, we have brick veneer being installed at student entry by bus loop student drop-off area. We have roof structure in place above the gym and the roofing to begin. And we have roofing also pretty much 45 to 50% complete on the site. The following slides will show some aerial views of the overall structure. Here we have, the first photo shows the overall view, campus looking east. And the second one you have looking from the south. And the following photos are going to show some brick veneer installation that's already ongoing. We have some of the structure going up already at the in the gymnasium area. And then we have interior view shots of the above ceiling MEP being installed, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing lines. That's an interior view of the cafeteria area. Some of the canopy, exterior canopy structure. And then there's views of the bus loop, the concrete work at the bus loop, at the building perimeter. So construction continues continues smoothly on this site. As you can see, you got the exterior work being done, coinciding with the interior work. Though it's been a tough year, they haven't stopped their momentum per se. It's been constant. So they've been able to stay on track pretty much. And this building is, you can see it now as you drive, if you're driving south on Cuatro Vientos Loop. It's a pretty impressive site. And as mentioned earlier, that whole subdivision has already started to really pick up.
Yeah.
Any questions on the middle school project? Thank you. Third project to report on, the demolition of the former Salinas Elementary School. This project is approximately 65% complete, and contractual completion date is September 30th. Looks like we may be a little ahead of schedule on this project.
Where is that located?
This is Century City. Yes,
Oh, that's the former Salinas.
the former Salinas.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are we doing there, Nachi? It's not another school, is it?
It's, no, we're actually demolishing that existing building since a replacement has already been built.
Mhm.
And as you can see, the entire building has been raised. The only structure right there is the fire line riser room. And right now they're coordinating with the city to go ahead and terminate that line. And as some of the photos show, it's already kind of been reduced to rubble throughout. And the contractor's ready to start the concrete slab demo. So the entire school superstructure has been demolished, and the site work demolition is underway.
Who takes the pictures? They're always so nice.
Well, the pictures are a combination of our staff and the architect or consultant of the project. And that's a requirement that we've implemented since day one as part of the pay application
Yeah,
process.
and they've all been great. That's why I'm like, who does it? Do y'all hire a professional or what?
Nachi has the iPhone 12.
Yeah. Actually, I have almost 40,000 photos on my phone. But yes, it's a very handy tool. And all our consultants are already on board with the process. And like I say, it's a requirement for as part of the pay application process.
Nachi, is there any specific use for this vacant space now?
Excuse me?
Is the school district looking at a use for this space now?
Well, at the moment,
Or is it just gonna be like a
Well,
large?
scheduled, there was a replacement, elementary school.
Oh.
And you'll see it in our bond program. However, there's been discussion to maybe not replace it because enrollment has slowed down.
Yeah,
But that's gonna be a discussion that comes with
Okay.
our board.
okay.
You know, and
Mhm.
Sam has a report to show that we showed the board a couple of weeks ago, right? It was presented to the board, so
Okay.
discussions are in place. I mean, you know, I'm like, how many houses can you fit there? But that's,
Yeah.
okay.
Maybe so.
You know, but let's just see. I mean, school, actually, land is very valuable. right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, and most of that area is really an older area. Century City and everything around there is probably back from the sixties.
Mhm.
So anybody who would be in that neighborhood now would probably be new family that might have moved in, but everybody else is an aging population.
Like us?
And we
Yeah.
have an elementary right next door. It's called Reese Elementary.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
you know, maybe that elementary can take care of
Yeah.
any more young kids
Sure.
moving into the area.
Does anybody have any more questions for Mr. Alanis?
well, there's one more
One
project.
more.
One more?
Yeah, one more project. It's
Oh, yeah,
erosion con-
sorry.
It's fine. The erosion control restoration at Washington Middle School. Construction progress to date is 43. We do, though, have a pay application, I guess, being prepared for the coming weeks. So that percentage may increase somewhat, but contractual completion date is May 21. And the progress report for this project is that the subgrade preparation and elevation verification was conducted and verified by the engineers of record. The gabion baskets and geogrid and select fill work was started. The wall drainage system was also installed. The 30-foot section of existing 72-inch corrugated metal pipe is to be removed and replaced with a new 72-inch polymer coated ultra-flow corrugated metal pipe. And the cast-in-place junction box subgrade preparation was completed in March. Formwork and reinforcement for the base is in place. And this shows some of the views from the base of that channel.
Wow.
See, that looks cool.
That is, wow.
Yes. Now, it is in a tough spot, so we have had some hiccups, some delays, per se, rain delays, that we're going to be looking at, that the contractor is putting together, but they may not be for much extension time. They've been able to maintain the site clear and have worked on it with any rain that we've gotten in the past. But it should address the erosion problem that we had, the serious erosion problem that we had in that location, which is directly.
So you're creating now like the proper drainage for it?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was inching up to the property line of Washington Middle School.
Wow.
So this, we had to take this measure to go ahead and control that.
So what does it look like the completion date will be now?
We're probably looking at maybe adding 3 to 4 weeks to the overall
Really?
substantial completion date, yeah. So maybe June,
Maybe June?
yeah, June 30th. But again, they've been working constantly as time permits and as weather permits, I mean, and they may finish sooner.
Did the freeze have any consequences on any of our projects?
The projects that we have under construction, not really, but throughout the campus, I believe there were some major, I guess, frozen lines, frozen pipes, types of issues. But that I know of,
That's the main thing.
yes. And that concludes the presentations for this
Thank
meeting.
you, Mr.
Okay,
Lyons.
thank you.
Hello, Mr. Flores.
Hello, Ms. Haynes, Madam Chair. Good evening, everybody, committee members, Sam Flores for the record. This will probably be, or maybe not, maybe the next one will be the easiest one, but this is the easiest financial report because all the moving parts have settled. We're down to just a few construction progress reports that Ignacio just presented. But we have spent and encumbered $362,742,312 out of the $413 million that we have, including interest. So we're at about an 87% completion. And with the GMP presented today, we will have the middle schools pretty much all costed out. The ninth grade campuses are all costed out. All the projects, probably from the technology upgrades all the way down the report, are costed out. And we're down to a couple of elementary schools that are remaining on the financial report. Everything's going as smooth as it can be at this point. One of the process that we're doing on a management level is looking at old POs. Some of these projects, a PO may linger. We're anticipating to see if we're gonna fill those POs. We have closed about $500,000, Mr. Rangel's favorite number, but his favorite number on the plus side. Now we have his favorite number on the negative side, so we've dropped a lot of the POs by about $500,000. We made a major payment for Roberto J. Santos Elementary School since the last time that we've met. As you saw, it's 100% complete. We're about 96% of it paid off already. And that's kind of the report for the financials at this point. And I don't know if anybody has any questions on the particular line items. So, yeah. And Maddie, you want me to go into the program update? Okay. The program update is the very last tab. It's just a summary. Some of the numbers may not exactly tie over to the financial report because we had to make some assumptions on furniture and equipment mainly. And so we added those line items in because purchasing has a good handle on when that furniture and equipment comes in, when we encumber it and when we pay it. But as you can see, like I said, everything with a C that you see on the far right is a completed project for the most part. And we really only have 2 projects that are in progress, and then 2 elementary schools where we haven't, they're not either completed nor in progress. So we really are down to the last handful of projects that maybe the next time we meet, I might not have to do a presentation, I don't know.
Sam,
The next time we meet, we'll bring, with the approval of the GMP, we'll go to
Yes.
the board next week. We have a board meeting and take your recommendation to them. So right there,
Yes.
half of that 50 million will be encumbered. And then, we did incorporate, you gotta furnish it, everything that we need to do to complete these schools. This is the report we shared with the board, just so that they could have an idea, because they may wanna repurpose some of these projects, those 2 remaining projects. If they do, it'll be a process, maybe of them having a workshop, deciding if we bring in the Blue Ribbon Committee back to see if we repurpose, us getting some guidance from our bond counsel and our attorneys to see what are we allowed to do in a repurposing of a bond. You tell your voters you're gonna do this, what can we do? So those are the things that administration is
Yes.
working on. But our job here was to really paint a picture of our financials and make sure we get this middle school in, and then that's it, what is the next step?
so Lyda, the schools, and I'm sure there weren't many, but the schools that were not touched, if you will, by this,
Up to now.
bond election, can we or the board consider maybe some type of upgrades? Because I know, like, the one that comes to mind is Clark Middle or Elementary. We voted on upgrading the LED lighting on the outside. Could other projects be considered for that?
What is the guidance that our bond counsel has kind of?
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of what bond counsel has shared with us, but from my understanding is, when you repurpose bond funds, you kind of have a contract with your constituents right now on what you're going to build.
Okay.
So there come the legalities of, we can repurpose them. The answer is yes, we can. We can look at other projects. We can present those projects, like Gladys said, to the Blue Ribbon Committee. The process may get more community involvement at that time.
I
There
get it,
might,
yeah. Makes
it
sense.
might be down to where we have a special call meeting, allow for public comments. But there is a legal process. We're just now looking into that.
There's
The answer is
constraints.
yes, we can repurpose, but there'll be a set process legally
Constraint.
on what we have to do to get to that point.
Because it was a referendum as opposed to like going out for COs. For COs, you named the purpose to include, X amount of schools with potential upgrades to certain others. And so that caveat there, the covenant allows you to go and address those as opposed to a referendum like Sam is explaining, contractually obligates you to that, so, okay.
And what we understood, our bond order itself may not have been specifically written to say, so many schools,
Right.
this campus, but it's those bond flyers that we presented to, in all our meetings that said, this is what we're gonna do, that's kind of considered the contract with your constituents, this is what you told them, so. There was a new legislative bill passed, I think in the previous session that really, and in the state of Texas, where some school districts have gone on and built up huge
Yes.
stadiums, and I think our legislators were not happy with
Right.
that, so.
Right.
So they just want to be able that we have a process in place with the opportunity for our public to make comments in a public hearing. So, like Sam said, there's going to be a process, but
It's right
I mean,
here.
if you see,
This is the commitment that we made.
that was the
So we
commitment.
carry it around, we make sure that we're within the guidelines
That's
of this
good, yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
And so just for the record, Lila, or transparency, how many schools came out of this? Remind me?
Well, it was the 4 ninth grades, the 3 middle
Middle
schools,
schools.
and 5 elementaries right now.
There's 7 slated, but 5 are done.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, it was
Excellent.
this committee that started, remember when these were very few numbers, and we said it's gonna take off, and it did, so, it's been a
Yeah, it really
long,
did. I remember,
8 years?
yeah, I remember at one of the meetings, Mrs. Jackson said, was going over the list of things for the school, and she said jewel cases. And I was like, excuse me? I didn't know those were those things for CDs, the case covers.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, explain why we need something for jewelry? We learn, so I've enjoyed it because I've learned a lot being on this committee.
But it was also renovations as
Yeah.
well.
We had renovations,
Projects,
some additions, yes.
HVAC projects and things like
Yes,
that
Yes.
as
yes.
well.
And those items, if you would recall, we kind of added some schools because we left that part as HVAC projects for various schools. So
And the
we were able-
cafeterias and the kitchens,
Right.
should have
So
been
when-
redone.
Exactly.
That's very
Yeah.
necessary. The
Gym,
air
you know,
conditioning on that,
gym.
the air conditioning on that,
Floor that we just.
Yes, yeah.
Elementary.
So some of those projects, we had the funds allocated for various schools, so we could stick in a school or two and still be within the guidelines of the bond issue.
yeah, the air conditioning for one of the kitchens, it wasn't air conditioned on.
Troutman Elementary.
Yeah,
They look forward to going. It was,
Yes,
you know.
Even the demolition.
yeah, the demolition is part of that.
Hey,
yeah.
that's pretty good. We all remember what we,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
glad.
Yeah,
been
it's a-
8 years, 8 years, and every project, we would come to y'all, and then we would go with a recommendation to the board.
Lila, I remember that the original intent of having the Bond Oversight Committee, or Madam Chair as well, is for the transparency, to make sure that the expenditures were held to where they were supposed to be and everybody held accountable. I don't want to use that term, but what I enjoy most is that you can get everything that we review here with a simple 3 or 4 clicks on the website. It's super
Yes.
transparent.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many, people actually look into what is being expended, but if they look at reports like this, I mean, it's to the penny of what has been spent on these projects, and so it's just, It's awesome. That's my main deal is just, as long as we're completely transparent with the voters.
Or even the meeting.
For sure. Yep, and the meetings are posted on the website and they're available online through
On
YouTube, I
YouTube.
believe.
We're on
Yeah,
YouTube.
It's awesome.
YouTube, yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I've been told that this committee asks the hard questions, that you all, lay it out there on the line.
Yeah, I owe Frank $1, he muted Orly.
I'll
I
pay
told him
for
when
it.
I go up there, mute Orly.
I was getting ready to say something. But I said, no.
It's been a pleasure, Orly, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, yes. But as you know, we will have probably another meeting with the site improvement of the Arquero Boulevard, and we will keep you posted on what the board intends to do with the 2 remaining projects. But as you know, we will open that elementary this fall, and that next middle school the following fall, and then that second middle school.
The elementary this fall, Ida, is the
The
Roberto
Santos
Santos.
Elementary, the one closed.
So we can't let him get too comfortable in retirement. We gotta make sure he's there for the ribbon cutting.
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and that would be nice to be together again.
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll go pick him up in a school bus. It'll be ceremonial. We'll do that.
Under the open agenda item, is there anything any member of the
Thank you all
committee would
very
like to
much.
bring forth?
Thank
Oh,
you,
sorry,
Sam.
thank you, Sam. Under the open agenda item, is there anything a member of the committee would like to bring forth? If not, do we set a date for the next committee meeting, or do we need to wait for?
I think, do you think we'll have a,
It probably will be towards the end of summer, maybe July, August.
Okay, then you will let us know as far as setting.
yes, we'll keep you posted.
Then if there's nothing further, this meeting's adjourned at 7:07 PM. Thank you very much.
Thank you.